Think of it this way, too. If you were viewing that cascade, speaking of time again, if you were viewing the cascade from a distance, it is difficult to pinpoint the one drop and its motion. You see the cascade as a totality of movement. It doesn't have a particular time to it, does it?
Right.
It simply exists in the now. Yes?
Uh-huh.
And yet, it is an event. It is happening.
Right.
So it is with your time now. You are in the cascade. You are suspended in the moment.
So will it then hit a place where things will calm again?
Indeed. Indeed.
Okay,
We are moving to a new balance, yes?
Uh-huh.
We are moving to a new balance. Once we achieve the new balance, then the waters were still again.
And, you know, I feel like through the various things that are happening in the world, that as tragic as some of them appear to us, if we place judgment on them, like the earthquake in Japan and the unrest in the Middle East and some of these things, that also there's huge discussions that are occurring as a result of these things on the pros and cons of nuclear energy or the rights of people in their own democracy and how much people have, you know, to determine in that or contribute to that. Is that part of the balancing? I mean, are those the kinds of dialogues and questions and things that we're supposed to be looking? I don't know, supposed to probably isn't the right word, but, you know, when you think about being as collecting information and experience, are those the kinds of experiences that are going to help being in some way?
Well, let us, there are so many parts to your question, yes? First of all experience, the purpose of being, our goal, if you will, which is an unachievable goal. It's polishing the stone, as we've said in the past. Our goal is to amass experience, to amass learning, to amass understanding. And it is an infinite avenue of experience that we embark upon, yes? So there are so many places and so many ways that we can experience every single breath, every single moment. So there is no right or wrong, there is no best, there is no particular means, but by creating the stage, the platform that exists upon your planet at present, we have truly revved up, yes, the experiential playing field. So for every moment, for every breath we take, there is something to be taken from it. Now, what I would say to you of these judgments, when we look upon things such as the recent disaster, if you will, in Japan, remember that we see these things as disaster because we see the death of individuals as an end, yes, as a loss. But know this, that we are all of being, that we are all constantly of being, that we are like that fishing boat with the net thrown over the side into the ocean. When we leave this form, we as the fishing net only drop to the bottom of the sea. Who we truly are as being, that ocean that flowed through constantly, that fishing net, we continue to exist. Our energy does not dissipate or disappear. It remains the same. So know this, that when we see loss, we grieve, indeed, because as humankind, that is part of our experience. How we react to that grief is part of our experience. How we improve matters so that we do not experience that grief again is part of that experience. And these are all gifts to being and to all. Yes?
Now, I was reflecting back a couple years ago when you were on the show. We were talking at one point about, it was back during the Bush administration, and the fear that was sort of, I don't know, put into our existence at that time. I was wondering if you could comment now. I mean, obviously, Bush is no longer the president. Obama is. How has that affected? And the messages are sort of different. I don't know if things are particularly better or not better, but from your perspective on this, what do you think is happening? What is the message, or what's being put out there in place of that fear, or is that fear still out there?
The fear still exists, most certainly, and always will, because that is part of the human dimension, yes? It is whether we are focused on the fear or whether we are focused on overcoming and making change to the fear. What I see is a growing trend toward the community, toward the community of spirit, toward the community of being. For in being, remember, we are all one, yes? And in our day-to-day as humankind, we have moved away from that. We have become the culture of people who drive into their garage and close the door behind them, who don't know the neighbor next door, who don't communicate with their own family members, who don't know the people that they work with, who don't understand the process of giving and receiving, of gratitude, of sharing. And in these times that we are immersed in at present, and I will add to that, we will continue to be immersed in, and I will add to that, that those times will accelerate and will expand and will become more forceful in the next few years. We will be drawn together. We will be, for all intents and purposes, forced to recognize one another as community, to recognize that our very survival as humankind depends on our ability to see one another as ourselves. It's something that goes back, those who adhere to biblical teachings treat others as you would be treated yourself, yes? Because that other is you. That other is being as you are. And that other need not be another human being, but may be your environment.
I want to go back to sort of some of the stuff that's happening in the Middle East. Now, it seems like in Egypt, people were coming to terms with the notion of being their own, speaking for themselves, or determining their own future, their own political system, whatever. And it's a little less clear in Libya, but it seems that that is sort of going along that same line. Is that where people are starting to see a new sort of freedom, that they no longer need to be oppressed by, whether that be a dictator or their own thinking that they are in that place of oppression?
Again, I would say to you that there are a variety of forces at work there. There is no single answer to that. What I would say to you is that as the global community becomes more connected with one another, new ideas, new understandings, new thoughts are being shared where they were not shared before. And it is changing the pattern, the way that we all look at our world. Where prejudices or fears divided us before, some of those walls are beginning to crumble. But what I will say to you is some of the wall builders are working overtime, trying to maintain the control that they hold in those areas. Yes? Does this make sense to you? I'm speaking rather vaguely now, but with purpose. So what I would say to you is that we have those who are beginning to recognize that there are other ways to approach